impressive ARPU at close to $70 per month for the triple play service. And in most countries, once you have 3G enabled mobile broadband, the number of broadband accounts outstrips that of fixed broadband accounts. It's a similar story to the voice service of cellular lines versus fixed voice lines. A fixed voice line or a fixed ADSL line serves the total household. It serves the location, whereas cellular services are individualistic. They serve individuals, and therefore the potential market, the addressable market for these services is much higher than the fixed broadband services. And of course, we look into that into our analysis. Our estimates, for example, that an ADSL connection, the internet user multiplier, which is how many people would use this account, on average it ranges in the region from 3 to 5, but for a mobile broadband connection, the multiplier is no more than 1.2 or 1.25 because it's primarily an individual's service, not a location service. So basically, over the past 10 years, we've always stated the fact, not the fact, in early 2000, late 1990s, it was the sort of wishful thinking. A person's in the third world first touch with the internet will be through the mobile device. But actually now the future is here. We are seeing this firsthand where many people, because of handhelds, are getting their first experience with the internet, not through a PC, not through a laptop, but through a smart handheld device. And of course, that creates some pains for the operators. Basically, the devices are bandwidth hungry. A smartphone uses a lot more data than a regular feature phone. And also, once teenagers get hooked to YouTube and graphic and video intensive services, that puts pressure on the data traffic in the region. Smartphone adoption amongst internet users in 6 Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, Jordan, Tunisia, and Morocco, but that's of internet users. 47% reported having smartphones. Of course, internet users would be expected to be the pioneering segment into smartphone adoption. And then of the installed handset devices in the Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, the handheld devices that are smartphones are over 50% in Saudi Arabia, close to 40% and 43% in the UAE and Jordan. That's the good news. There is a shred of bad news in it, which is many people actually do not know their handset type. So those who said, I don't have a smartphone, they don't realize whether they have a smartphone or not. So we had to ask them about what brand and what type do you have, and then we calculated the actual, whether that was a smartphone or not. So that's one bad news. And I'm going to skip to the second bad news, which is of those who have smartphones, not many use the applications. Not many use the full functionality of the smartphone. So, for example, in Saudi Arabia, 48% of those with a smartphone actually reported using applications. In the UAE, it's 45%. In Jordan, where the penetration of smartphones is higher, the use of smartphones is a bit higher. Use of applications is a bit higher. That was an interesting finding. It's the language preference for smartphone application users. It's expected in the UAE and expected in Saudi Arabia, but the surprising factor was the results in Jordan. So let me explain first a slide. When we ask people, what's your preferred language for applications on the smartphone? The UAE, which is heavily expatriate, where the non-Arabic speaking population is quite high, maybe up to 60% or so, 90% said, I prefer English language for my applications. Saudi Arabia, where the population is predominantly Arabic, almost 50% said, I prefer Arabic, not English, for my smartphone applications. But in Jordan, a predominantly Arabic-speaking country where Arabs constitute more than 99.5% of the population, actually 90% of the smartphone users said, I prefer English for my smartphone applications. So it's I think it feeds into the point that the major country, the major market for Arabization and localization is really Saudi Arabia and Egypt. But a smaller country like Jordan and Lebanon, probably many of the users there are quite happy with English, and they don't even bother switching their menus of their phones and so on. Now, we also ask people whether, of those who download applications, we ask them whether they pay for these applications or not. A minority actually pay for the applications, not a major portion. And then we estimated their annual purchases, and we came up with projections and estimates for the size of revenues generated by these users. In Jordan, it's a small market of 1.5 million a year. We projected to grow to around 8 million by 2015. In Saudi Arabia, a major pie, already estimated at 35 million US dollars in 2011, to grow to 156 million in 2015, and the UAE 7.5 million US dollars, and we projected to grow to 45 million in 2015. We asked also what handsets people use. Now, Nokia is still the leader. It is under pressure, but for now it remains the leader, especially in Jordan, with 2/3 of the handset devices being Nokia devices. BlackBerry and iPhone in Jordan are quite small shares, whereas iPhone and BlackBerry are quite booming in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And of course, Samsung is driven by the Galaxy series and the Android platform. And when we ask people about the platform being used for the smartphones, this is percent of the total smartphone base. In Jordan, Symbian, Nokia, almost 63%, but much lower in Saudi Arabia and KSA, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. iPhone and BlackBerry quite high in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, but Android is also picking up, especially with the fact that it's promoted by many vendors, and we think that in light with global trends, Android's share will also be enhanced over the coming few years. And that's a telling slide. Basically, of those planning to get a smartphone, we asked them what type of smartphone would you like to have, and basically iPhone and BlackBerry are quite high in the three countries. But good news for Nokia in Jordan, where still almost more than 1/3 still would like to buy a Nokia smartphone. Tablet use, basically a very small portion in Jordan. 5% of respondents said they had tablets. Of the cellular users that we talked to, a surprising number, close to 1/5, said they had tablets in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Broadband connections in the region. Basically, the speeds varied very significantly between the countries. So I think there's a lot of work in the region in getting more people onto the broadband bandwagon, but also increasing those broadband connection speeds in the region. Now, I'll give you a contrast, for example, between Saudi Arabia and Jordan. A survey we did, we asked people what the speed of their ADSL connection was. In Saudi Arabia, 4 megabits per second was the highest share, close to 50%. That's what the people reported. These are self-reported findings. I know many are from STC here, so they'll have the exact percentages. But in Jordan, actually close to 40% only have more than 1 megabit per second. So even the broadband users in a country like Jordan, technically speaking, 60% are not really broadband users. 60% have less than 1 megabit per second speeds to the connection. So the challenge is increase the broadband penetration in the households, but also increase the average broadband speeds going into these households. I'm going to skim through these slides in the interest of time. Basically, these are from our online and internet user surveys. How many people of the respondents of the internet users use the internet to stream radios. A small minority, 10%, use the internet to stream radio. That might be related to the speed of the broadband connections they have. And even a smaller minority streams TV over their broadband connections. That's the broadband connections for TV. And of course, when it comes to less bandwidth hungry applications, most people now, the access to information and news through the web is almost equal to that through print newspapers. And who plays games online here? I love chess. Who plays chess online first? So we should go against each other one day. So it's, I like chess because it's the only game that doesn't have luck involved in it. You really decide the fate of your game by your own moves. But apparently many other people also like to play games online. A majority in Saudi Arabia and Jordan of internet users reported playing games online. Around 40% in Egypt reported playing games online. E-commerce penetration also varies significantly between the countries of the region, from an estimated 25% of the adult population in the UAE actually are e-commerce users, to less than 2%, 1.6% in a country like Lebanon of the total population reported using e-commerce at one point or another. And social media has become a major channel in the region. These are pre-Arab Spring statistics, and already close to 2/3 and over half of users in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan use social media extensively. And the operators have followed the social media adoption. So now that consumers have a lot of social media, we've seen that Arab cellular operators, for example, 100% of them now have Facebook presence, 91% have a presence on LinkedIn, and 85% have a presence on Twitter, up from 70%, 80%, and 96% in 2010. So the interest in social media is heightened, and operators to varying degrees are on these social media platforms. But of course, they vary greatly on how they use those social media. So some of these operators really use it in a sophisticated manner, and others just have a presence that still need to be more sophisticated in its approach.